Hello everyone, I welcome all of you to my lecture sessions on biochemistry for pharmacy students. So in today's session we will discuss in detail regarding biochemical organization of cell. So in that, chemistry and functions of a very important cell organelle, that is cell membrane, is what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so let's move ahead. So as you all knew, our human body is organized in human body, if you take, so it is made up of various tissues. Okay, so all these tissues can be differentiated from one another because of their functional and other characteristics. So within every tissue you will find, because if you break tissue into smaller pieces, you will end up ultimately in having the unit of life, that is cell. So a tissue is made up of a group of cells. So when a group of cells are connected to each other, every cell can be recognized by a barrier. Every one of these cells are separated by their own barriers. Okay, so this barrier is what we are going to call it as cell membrane. Okay, so scientists have been looking at cell and its structure for ages, but because of the developments in technology, in the beginning, what we have got is a simple microscope. Okay, so under microscope we have the capability to see the cell and its structures to some extent. And then once the microscope evolved, okay, further, so we got electron microscope, and which offered higher resolution, so that helped in further zooming into the structures of a cell. So thereby we got a little bit more idea on the type of arrangements that we have within our cell. And coupled with that, the developments in dye chemistry. Okay, so those chemicals which help us increase the contrast between various components within a cell helped us get a clearer picture of cell membrane. So further, several scientists, they added their own knowledge in chemistry, biotechnology, as well as physical chemistry. So with that knowledge, they proposed models for cell membrane. So what type of chemicals can associate with themselves so that a membrane can be formed, and this membrane is not a simple barrier, it is a functional unit. Okay, so it has its own functions to do. So how it is able to do the functions, etc., to explain all those features, so they developed certain models. Okay, so let's briefly see what are all those models, and then we'll go to the actual subject. So in the beginning, means way back in 1895, Overton is the scientist who actually worked on lipophilicity of drugs. Okay, especially the general anesthetics. Okay, so in the general anesthetics, as you increase the lipophilicity, he observed increase in bioactivity. So that is what we call it as Mayer-Overton theory. So there, this scientists have proposed that because lipophilicity, when increase lipophilicity, it is able to cross the barriers. So that's the reason why the membranes that we have, which are separating one cell from the other or a tissue from another tissue, must be lipophilic in nature. So that is the first observation what we got. Through that, Overton proposed that the membrane is made up of a lipid rich environment. Okay, and then Langmuir suggested that the lipids at the interface of air and water arrange themselves as monolayer with polar ends of the molecules directed towards the water and the non-polar ends at the air. Okay, so let's imagine that we have a chemical molecule with lipophilic region as well as hydrophilic region. So when you keep this chemical in contact with water, all the polar heads align themselves towards water. Okay, so in that way, so what he has actually studied the sphingolipids and glycerophospholipids, and he made his observation, and ultimately he gave a model saying that the cell membrane is actually made up of a layer of chemicals with polar as well as non-polar entities. So it all happened in 1917. And later on in 1925, Gorter and Grendel, so they found that, so they did a simple experiment. What they have done is they have collected a specific number of RBCs, and then they shredded that and extracted the lipid, and then kept the lipid on the surface of water. So when they have theoretically calculated the surface area of all the RBCs and then the surface area occupied by a surface area covered by the lipid layer, when they have compared, they found that the surface area of the lipids that covered the water surface is exactly double the actual surface area that they have calculated for RBC. Okay, so that indicated that the lipid layer, the cell membrane, is actually not a monolayer but it is a bilayer. Okay, so if it is a bilayer, then you will definitely get twice the quantity of phospholipids that are that can cover the surface of water. Okay, so in that way, so what they have done, they proposed this model of phospholipid bilayer model by Gorter and Grendel in 1925. Then what happened is Danieli and Harvey, what they have found is like because as I told you, we are evolving both in technology as well as in chemistry. Okay, so they added contrasting agents so that in electron microscope they were able to observe that the interface between two cells, okay, when they observed under microscope, so they were able to color that, so that interface picked up certain dye molecules indicating presence of protein layer, so that dye is actually uniformly distributed throughout the phospholipid bilayer. So that indicated that cell membrane is actually covered on either sides with protein. So here what they proposed is the substance was a surface active agent of a cytoplasmic nature and appeared to be a protein. So what they have done is they proposed this model, Davison and Danieli model. It all happened in 1935, where they proposed that proteins are present on either side of the phospholipid bilayer membrane. And then at the same time, what happened is another model evolved in 1960 by Robertson, where he also has done a similar kind of experiment and proposed that the phospholipid bilayer is actually flanked by two continuous layers of proteins. That is the way how it evolved in 1960. But later on, in 1973, Singer and Nicholson, so these are the two scientists who actually have done extensive studies on phospholipid bilayer membrane, and then they observed that so here you can see the phospholipid bilayer membrane, and on either sides you can see the dots, dark dots over here. Okay, and you can also see dark connections, okay, so that are over here between the two layers. So the darkness is actually indication of presence of a protein. So after observing this one, Singer and Nicholson has actually proposed a comprehensive explanation, comprehensive model to explain all the functions of a cell membrane. So that is, a cell membrane is actually a phospholipid bilayer membrane impregnated with several proteins. The protein can sometimes be attached to only on one side, or it is impregnated to only one layer, or it is a transmembrane layer. Okay, so here you can see the simple model. So this is the protein which is attached to one side of the membrane. Okay, one side of the membrane, and this is the protein which is impregnated to one layer. So one of the layer. Okay, so here we have two layers on one layer. So this is another protein on the other side. So this is a transmembrane protein. So here you can see these lines, whatever we can see over here. So all these are transmembrane proteins, and you can have some of the dark spots over here. So they are all attached to one side of the cell membrane, and here you can see. So all these are proteins that are impregnated to one side of the cell membrane. Okay, so it is all because we cannot zoom further to get a very clear picture on at this region. Okay, maybe it is possible in future to even see closely the cell membrane interface. Okay, so with this, Singer and Nicholson has proposed in 1973 the comprehensive picture of the cell membrane. Okay, so and they actually proposed the term, they coined the term fluid mosaic model, where the phospholipids that actually make the phospholipid bilayer, the phospholipids are not connected to each other via covalent interactions. So when they are not connected via covalent interactions, the interactions are only lipid-lipid interaction or hydrogen bonding interaction. So they are not very strong. So that gives the phospholipid bilayer a fluid bed-like environment, and then fluid bed-like nature. So that allows the phospholipids to flip from side to side. Okay, so what scientists found is, like, for every 10 power minus 5 seconds the phospholipids can flip from one side to another side. So in that way the lipid exchange can happen between layer to layer. Okay, so this is what we call it as fluid mosaic model, which explain most of the properties of cell membrane. Okay, so these are some of the pictures which actually supported this proposal. So this is what we call it as freeze fractured cell membrane scanned via electron microscope. Okay, so here you can see this is one of the layer, this is another layer. You can see the dots over here. Okay, so all these rough surface, whatever you can see, so all these dots you can see over here are all probably proteins. Okay, so these are all proteins. And here, as I told you, with the enhancement or with evolutions of newer technologies, we were able to get deeper and deeper understanding into nature of cell membrane. Okay, so this is one such experiment which gave us a very clear idea. Okay, this is an easy model to understand this picture. Okay, so here you have two layers are there, and when it is fractured, freeze fractured like this, when you remove one of the layer, what you are going to see is remaining these proteins as something like humps, like this rough surface. Whatever you can see over here are all proteins. Okay, and here I am giving you some of the examples of electron microscope pictures of cell organelles, where all organelles, as I told you, in our cell, all organelles are like compartments. Within each compartment a specialized biochemical activity happens, like within mitochondria all oxidation reduction reactions happen, and then ATP synthesis. This is a specialized path, specialized processes. Okay, so they are compartmentalized like this. And in the same way, this is a nuclear environment where within nucleus you will find the genetic material, and then you have endoplasmic reticulum over here. So whenever and wherever you can see some kind of a separation, that layer is nothing but a phospholipid bilayer. Okay, so this is the actually the publication by Singer and Nicholson, where they proposed the fluid mosaic model of the structure of cell membrane. It was published in Science Journal, and here you can see this is the pictorial representation whatever they have given, like the cell membrane contains a phospholipid bilayer. So this is a phospholipid bilayer, this is one part, this is second part, and then here we have a protein embedded into it with expansion up to only one layer only, and this is a transmembrane layer. Okay, so which they have translated into a three-dimensional representation like this. Okay, so it all happened in 1973. So to summarize, okay, I will give you a very simple understanding on cell membrane. So this is a phospholipid bilayer of a cell membrane. So it is because of the phospholipid bilayer contains the phospholipids, lipid tails and polar head will be there. So like that, two layers. More such bipolar lipids are going to form layers. Okay, so these two layers, they come together so that in the lipid region they form very tight interactions, lipid-lipid interactions they will happen, and when you add proteins to it, you ultimately get this model. Okay, so this is what is our cell membrane. Okay, it contains several heterogeneous chemicals embedded in phospholipid bilayer environment. Okay, so friends, let's move ahead. So scientists found that because phospholipid bilayer is non-functional, okay, phospholipid bilayer does not have any responsive element, so that's the reason why functions of a cell membrane must be because of the protein content of the phospholipid bilayer. Hence what they found is the various types of functions that you can see in case of cell membrane are actually because of proteins. So what are all the functions that you can see? A protein can act as a channel so that material transport is possible. A protein can also act as an enzyme so that it does some job of converting chemicals to products. And it also can act as a receptor so that information, sensory information or any other information that is arising from one side will be sent into the within the cell. And then cell identity, some of the cells are there like CD4 cells, etc. So they will carry specialized molecules attached to the proteins, so thereby they help in identification markers. And then we all knew that cell and cell, they adhere to each other so that a tissue is formed. Okay, so for that also a protein is essential. And the third one is for the integrity of a cell to maintain its structure, etc., cytoskeleton will be there. So cytoskeleton actually makes point of contact with the cell membrane protein. So protein to protein, that cytoskeleton is going to expand. So in that way cell membrane proteins are actually responsible for the functions of a cell. Okay, so this is about the significance of proteins that we have within cell membrane. If you see the chemistry of cell membrane, scientists found that membrane composition. So if you take myelin membrane, it contained 18% of lipid and 16% of protein. In mitochondria, more means like 24% of lipid, 76% of protein was there. In case of red blood cells, 50% of lipid and 50% of protein was there. So let's expand our thinking further. So this is here I am representing a small part of phospholipid bilayer membrane. So what is this chemical over here? Okay, so let's say if you take simple phospholipid bilayer membrane, so this area is highly flexible. So because of the fluid bed like environment, what will happen? Fluid mosaic model explains that lipids can move from place to place, and also they are not bound by covalent interaction. So that's the reason why you cannot expect a high degree of integrity in the structure of a cell. So that could be one reason why scientists found significant proportion of cholesterol in the cell membranes. So cholesterol, what is the structure of cholesterol? So this is the structure of cholesterol. It is a highly non-polar chemical with only OH group as the polar head. Okay, so this polar head is aligned like this, and here the lipid region, whatever we have over here, is highly rigid. Okay, because the cyclohexyl units are there which are rigid and they resist conformational changes within the molecule. So that's the reason why it offers structural rigidity to the cell membrane. So it makes the cell membrane semi-flexible. It makes the cell membrane semi-flexible. Okay, so here you can see we always represent cell membrane by using this kind of representation, where you have one head and then you have two tails. It is more like a zombie. So what is why are we giving this type of representation? Okay, this is what we have to see and understand first. So this is it. The phospholipid bilayer membrane is actually made up of, see here, what is this unit? This is glycerol. Okay, C OH, OH and OH. So glycerol. The fatty acids are actually esterified onto hydroxy groups so that triglycerides are formed. Okay, triglycerides are formed, and this is what is normally observed. And here the same kind of chemistry was taken into consideration, but one of the hydroxy group is attached to a highly polar substance, and then the remaining two hydroxy groups are attached to fatty acid chains. So that's the reason why this entire region is what we call it as polar head, and here we have two tails. So in this way, for ease of understanding, we are representing it by this symbol. Okay, so we write the polar head so that this is more like head, and then we have tails. It is like this, so that you can easily recognize that. But the actual chemistry is, it is actually a diglyceride containing on one of the hydroxy group a polar molecule. Okay, so friends, I hope you understand the concept here. Let's expand it further. So as I told you, one of the hydroxy group in glycerol is esterified onto polar group. So how many different polar groups are there? So here the polar group can be a phosphatidyl serine. Phosphoric acid is there, this is serine, okay, amino acid. Or phosphatidyl ethanolamine can also be there. So if you remove carboxylic acid unit here, it will become ethanolamine. And then phosphatidyl inositol. Inositol is a sugar unit. When it is esterified onto phosphoric acid, which is further esterified onto glycerol, so this is a highly polar head. Phosphatidyl choline can also be there. Phosphatidyl diphosphatidyl glycerol can also be a part of cell membrane. So this kind of arrangement you will usually see in case of cardiac tissue. That's the reason why we call this particular specific molecule as cardiolipin. So here this is the glycerol unit. So here you can see this is the glycerol unit, and two of the terminal hydroxy groups are esterified onto phosphatidyl phosphoric acids. Okay, so here this is phosphoric acid and this is also phosphoric acid, and phosphoric acid, this hydroxy group is esterified onto diglyceride. So here is one diglyceride, here is another diglyceride. This hydroxy group is free. So here how it looks like, we have polar head and it appears like this. Okay, this type of specific arrangement you can find in case of cardiac tissue, where so much of ion transactions are happening because it is highly responsive. Okay, so that could be one reason why this kind of novel arrangement we can see in case of cardiac cell membrane. Okay friends, I hope you understood the concept here. So these are all the polar functional groups that can be attached to glycerol to make different types of cell membranes in our body. Okay, so please remember that throughout our body you will find so many types of heterogeneous environment. The liver cell is not the same as adipose tissue cell, or is not the same as your skin cell. Okay, so that's the reason why, to offer functionality to the cell membrane, chemistry is going to alter. So in this way, this is one example of heterogeneous molecules that are participating in cell membrane biochemistry. Okay, so let's move ahead. So on the lipid side, you can have simple glycerol and fatty acids. Okay, glycerol and fatty acids. So what are all the other types of units that can participate in cell membrane formation? See here, this type of lipids are what we call them as sphingosines. In case of sphingosines, you will find 1, 2, 3 carbons. Like in case of glycerol, CH2OH, CHOH, CH2OH is glycerol. Okay, so instead of glycerol attached to some fatty acid, esterified onto fatty acid, So this particular unit is replaced by a specific specialized fatty acid molecule. We call it as sphingosine. Okay, sphingosine contains a long fatty chain CHOH, CHNH3 plus and CH2OH. So this unit will be there. When you have some other functional groups attached to this, you will find a formation of different kinds of chemical. So that is sphingosine is this one. Ceramide. Ceramide is nothing but the NH2 we have over here, ammonium group, is actually amidated with fatty acid. Amidated with fatty acid. So when it is amidated, it looks like this. Okay, this is polar head and this is the tail over here and this is the amidated tail. Okay, so in this way. So to this ceramide, if it is attached to the hydroxy group over here we have, okay, if it is attached to a phosphatidylcholine unit, so this is what we call it as sphingomyelin. Okay, and then if you take ceramide, okay, this is the ceramide, we have hydroxy group over here. So to this, when a sugar unit is attached, like galactose is very popular, or other sugars can also attach to this one. So this is what we call it as cerebroside. Cerebral region means this kind of lipids were first isolated and identified in brain, nerve tissue. So that's the reason why the name is coming like this. And then if so many such sugar units are attached to each other, so this is what we call it as a ganglioside. Okay, ganglioside. So they are also derived from ganglions or your nerve tissue. Okay, ganglionic junctions. Okay, because the cell functioning of a cell decides the chemistry. Okay, so alteration of chemistry is because cell membranes need to show different kinds of functions. Okay, so friends, so this type of different types of lipids you can find in case of cell membrane biochemistry. Okay, I hope you are understanding it. So let's move ahead. Now if you see the types of fatty acids and their significance, so cell membranes contain different types of fatty acids. One is saturated fatty acids. So if you see the three-dimensional structure of the saturated fatty acids, it appears like this. It appears like a thread. So if you hang a thread freely, what will happen? It can move in any random direction. Okay, it is like that. And we also can have unsaturated fatty acids like monounsaturated fatty acids. So when there is unsaturation is there, what happens? It will give a nick. Okay, so that's the reason why, let's say in this case, the fatty acids, if they are aligned like this, they will interact with each other at many different points. The lipid interactions will be there. Lipid interactions, they are only 1 to 2 kilojoules. Okay, it is very less, but still it is useful, because if we have 16 different carbons are there, at least at 4 or 5 points, if a lipid is interacting with the nearby lipid, because it is in three-dimensional, it is happening in three-dimensional environment. So that's the reason why 3 into, let's say 5 points if you take, into 2 kilojoules, how much it is? 30 kilojoules. 30 kilojoules is almost half of covalent bond. So that's the reason why the lateral interaction of unsaturated fatty lipids is very high. So that's the reason why oils, upon hydrogenation, they will become dalda, which is solid, because it increases the oils upon hydrogenation. They loses all the double bonds, so thereby more and more interactions will happen, so that it will become solid, semi-solid. Okay, dalda. So by adding a double bond, what is happening? So two lipids are like this, the third lipid is like this. So thereby efficient interaction cannot be there, so it offers some kind of nick. Okay, so that increases flexibility in lipids, or flowability in lipids. that is very much needed for functioning of cell membrane. And we also can have highly unsaturated fatty acids like arachidonic acid. Okay, so if you see the three-dimensional structure of arachidonic acid, it appears like this. Okay, it appears like a semi-helical type structure. Okay, it is like this. We have COOH here. Okay, so what is the function, what is the role of, because let's say if the cell membrane is supposed to exist, it need to have structural integrity. So optimal interactions need to be there between, lateral interactions need to be there between the lipids. Let's say if you have a lipid has highly unsaturated lipid like this, so it is like you have a lipid here, you have a lipid here, in the third stage you have something like this. Okay, so that will disrupt the entire environment, but still this type of lipids are existing and highly essential for our cell membrane. Why? Okay, let's see. Let's say, as I told you in the beginning itself, okay, so if you see cell membrane, it is like this, and in between we have a protein. So how this protein is held tightly by the membrane lipids is a very big question. Okay, membrane has to interact appropriately with the protein, make necessary bonds, and physically restrict its motion. Otherwise, the integrity of cell membrane is going to be disturbed. Now, how come it is happening? Because you will not have any kind of covalent interaction between cell lipids, cell membrane lipids. Okay, they have to interact in some other manner. So one of the proposal is this one. Okay, the plasma membrane, the lipid moieties, they will encapsulate the protein in such a manner that they will tightly hug the protein. Okay, so when we have a highly unsaturated lipid like this, it will help in wrapping up the protein. Let's say if this is the protein we have, and then this is the phospholipid bilayer. So one of the lipid is highly unsaturated, so the second one comes like this. So here also we have another phospholipid, so its lipid also will move around the protein so that it will physically hold on to the protein, so thereby it offers physical stability to the protein. So this is, in one way you can understand the functional contributions of presence of highly unsaturated fatty acids like arachidonic acid in the cell membrane. Okay, so friends, I hope you understand the nature of cell membrane lipids and their significance. Okay, so let's move ahead. So in case of cell membranes, as I told you just now, so when you have highly saturated lipids, if the cell membrane is made up of completely saturated lipids, then you will find a very tight bonding between all these through lipid-lipid interactions, so thereby flexibility will not be there. Whereas when you have unsaturations, they will give nicks. Okay, so thereby interaction will not be very much tight, and then the physically so much of space is also available. So that's the reason why the cell membrane shall have elasticity or semi-flexibility. It is essential for functioning of a cell membrane. So friends, let's see now the functions of cell membrane. This is very important. Please focus and understand what I am explaining. The first and foremost application of cell membrane is compartmentalization. So as we have seen just now, cell membranes are continuous unbroken sheets. They are like sheets. Okay, so and as such inevitably enclose compartments. So they help in segregating environments or separating environments so that you can see in and out. So this is offering a physical barrier so that a cell is separated from the external environment. And further, within the cell you will find several organelles, like you have nucleus is there, and then we have the mitochondria is there, and then different types of organelles like lysozyme is there, and so many other vesicles will be there. Okay, it is like that. So whenever and wherever a specific biochemical reaction is to happen, if the biochemical reaction is to be enclosed, the cell membrane or the phospholipid bilayer membrane will help in creating a compartment within the cell. So compartmentalization not only helps in in focused biochemical reactions to happen in a focused direction, but it also helps in ease of regulation, because now we have different compartments are there. So nucleus can be regulated separately, mitochondria can be separated regularly, and other apparatus like Golgi apparatus can be regulated separately. It is like that. Okay, it helps in prevention of one of the biochemical with the other, because all biochemicals that we have within our cell are all water soluble mostly. So that's the reason why if it is not restricted, the flow of biochemicals, if it is not restricted, they may mix with one another, so that the biochemical reaction will lose its focus. So that's the problem. Okay, so in that way the compartmentalization helps us. The next one is, it offers scaffold for biochemical activities. So for offering, the membranes provide cell with an extensive framework or scaffolding within which components can be ordered or effective for effective interaction. It means like the cell membrane is like a workbench. Okay, so like your lab bench where you can have every here you will find round bottom flask, and then it is connected to another reactor, it is connected to another reactor. So this is acting as a scaffold. Okay, so it helps in firmly holding on to all these apparatus so that a reaction can happen in a regular fashion. So this type of environment you will find in several places. The best example is electron transport chain. Okay, where electrons, the energy that is captured from one of the chemical substance is transported, so that ultimately ATP is synthesized. Okay, so electron transport chain is a very important chain. I made a separate video, so you may refer to that video to get a clear understanding. But here because cell membrane, the phospholipid bilayer membrane offers something like a scaffold, the physical support for biochemical reactions to happen. And another example is, it offers firm support to ribozymes. Okay, so ribozymes are where protein synthesis happens. So for protein synthesis to happen, ribosome is to be integrated into endoplasmic reticulum. So there nothing but phospholipid bilayer membrane will be there. Okay, so in that way cell membranes provide cell with an extensive framework so that biochemical reactions can happen in an orderly fashion. So friends, I hope you understood the concept here. It provides a selectively permeable barrier. Okay, this is a very important feature of phospholipid bilayer membrane. So the cell membranes prevent the unrestricted exchange of molecules from one side to another. So if you see the way how you can differentiate two compartments, okay, so inside the cell and outside the cell. So one thing that you can clearly see is, inside a cell it is meant for capturing energy. Okay, so energy can be potential energy or kinetic energy, because this is actually a closed system, so only potential energy can be captured, like chemical potential, like biosynthesized ATP. Chemical energy that is derived from food material is captured and stored within cell in various ways. So one is, it increases ion concentration, or it tries to keep more and more of a compound against the concentration gradient. Okay, let's say if glucose is here, okay, so glucose will be absorbed in such a manner that more and more glucose will be inside the cell, and outside the glucose is now exhausted. Okay, so how it is happening? Because the cell membrane is offering some kind of selective permeability, so that glucose can move only in this direction and not the other way. So here you can also see ion transporting mechanisms like sodium pump, chloride pump, etc., which helps in transport of ions across the membrane. Across the membrane again is the concentration gradient in many of the cases. Okay, so in that way it helps in regulating cell functions in this way by offering selective permeability. The third one is transporting solutes. So the plasma membrane contains machinery for physically transporting substances. Because cell membrane, it looks like semi-permeable barrier. For small molecules it is possible to diffuse through the membrane, but for many molecules which are highly polar, like even glucose, they cannot diffuse through the cell membrane. So that's the reason why the cell membranes offer a physical support, so that through the cell membrane you will find transmembrane proteins which acts as transporters, so that they can selectively recognize the chemical and transport the chemical across the cell membrane, either via active transport or passive transport. So transportation across the cell membrane is a specialized topic and very important for us. So that's the reason why I made a separate video on that. So you may please refer to that video to get a clear idea on transport across cell membrane. Okay, so here is another very important function of cell membrane, that is responding to external stimuli. Cell membrane is actually the outermost layer of a cell. Okay, so that's the reason why if it is completely closing the cell from the external environment, there will be no communication happening. So because communication is essential, because cell is a living body, so it need to respond to the outside signals. So that's the reason why the plasma membrane plays a critical role in the response of a cell. This entire process is what we call it as signal transduction. So here the thing is very simple. It contains a specialized apparatus like a protein, so which can have the capability to recognize a signal from outside, so that this signal will be translated in an appropriate manner, and then this will give effect. Okay, so it is like let's say insulin, if it is attached to insulin receptors, then it activates uptake of glucose. Okay, so it is like that. It is like that. So insulin is a chemical signal hormone, so it attaches to its receptor outside the cell, which is outside the cell, so it activates the cell to take up glucose from blood. Okay, so this is the way how cell membrane helps in signal transduction. Okay, the next one is intercellular interaction. Because it is, as I told you, cell membrane is situated at the outer edge of every living cell. So that's the reason why through that only a cell can physically interact with the environment, because all the organelles are within, inside. Just like the way how we touch others with our hands or something like that, the skin is actually having the receptors, so that it gives us the feedback. In the same way, a cell membrane contains specialized signaling molecules, recognition molecules, so that through them a cell membrane offers a scaffold here again, so that there you will find proteins, specialized proteins embedded within the cell membrane, so that they will help in intercellular interaction. It can attach to another cell and it can communicate with that. So in that way. Okay, so friends, I hope you understood the concept of cell membrane and its functions. So friends, this is all about cell membrane, its structure and its functions. Okay, so to summarize, what we have seen today is cell membrane. Cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. Okay, so it contains, within the bilayer, proteins will be there. So these proteins, they are actually responsible for functions of cell membrane, functions of cell or cell membrane. And in the phospholipid bilayer, different types of polar chemicals will be there. Polar head. Okay, so in this you have this polar head. So here you can find so many different types of polar chemicals like glycerol and sphingosins, ceramides, etc. These are all functional lipids. this is glycerol. So within glycerol, the two hydroxy groups that we have, either for in case of sphingosine or in case of glycerol, one of the hydroxy group or one of the functional group is utilized for attachment of phosphatidyl units. Okay, so here in the polar head you will find phosphatidyl choline, phosphatidyl serine, etc. So many other chemicals are there, so that they help as polar head. So in the lipids you will find saturated, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids will be there, like arachidonic acid. So these fats, they help in maintenance of cell rigidity or cell flexibility. To control cell rigidity, cholesterol will be integrated into cell membrane. So this is what we have seen. The polyunsaturated fatty acids help in stabilizing protein content that is there within the cell membrane. Further, arachidonic acid also helps in the production of prostaglandins. So whenever there is the cell membrane got damaged because of inflammatory signals or something like that, and arachidonic acid will be converted to prostaglandin, and then the prostaglandins will initiate inflammatory reactions. Okay, so in that way cell membrane helps us. So what are the functions of cell membrane? Compartmentalization. Okay, one is compartmentalization, the second one is selective permeability, semi permeable, third one is it helps in signal transduction, fourth one is transport of materials, fifth one is it intercellular communication, sixth one is it offers like a scaffold so that biochemical reactions can happen in a regular fashion. Okay, so friends, I hope you understood the concept of cell membrane and its functions. If you have any doubt or if you need any clarification, please post it in the comment section so that I will respond. Please share this video with your friends and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you will get a notification as and when I release a new video which is going to be useful to you. And I thank you all for your time, and I'll meet you again with another very interesting lecture soon. Thank you.